Brendan Allen is the new rear naked choke king. 6-fight win streak he's on right now. 6 fights in a row. 5 of those by rear naked choke. The other one was a decision. I am Blaine Henry, your host of today's Fight Library podcast, and this is episode 259. I'll be honest with you guys, today this is going to be short and sweet. I didn't really get a chance to watch all of the fights. I just saw the main event. I didn't even watch Shakur, and you knew I love my boxing. So, yeah, and apparently I didn't miss much with Shakur Stevenson. So, Brendan Allen's what we're talking about today. This past weekend, I was in Dallas, Texas, watching the World Wushu Championships. So, you'll be able to watch that episode of Fight Finders coming this week by end of week. Anyway, so, yeah, Brendan Allen pretty much did what he wanted with Paul Craig, who's in a weird spot in his UFC career. Paul Craig, you know, he lifelong light heavyweight, moves down to middleweight to find a new home, and it's not working for him. You know, he won, I think, his first fight or something. I didn't even look at the stats before this. But he won his first couple fights there, maybe, but he doesn't look that good. You know, he looks emaciated, which going down from light heavyweight to 185, that's 20 pounds. So that's tough. So, yeah, he's a compromised opponent. Brendan Allen's run hasn't been bad. You know, 5 straight rear naked choke finishes, I think, or 4 on the trot and 1 after he lost to Chris Curtis in his last loss. So, yeah, I really like Brendan Allen. I don't claim him as one of the Louisiana boys yet because I don't know why. I just don't see him as that. But he obviously is asking for purple and gold shorts. So, you know, that's LSU's colors. If anybody didn't know, that's the colors for the LSU Tigers, our program down here, our college program that doesn't have wrestling yet. If I have something to say about it, it will. So, what do I like about this performance from Brendan Allen, man? So, honestly, it was just really dominant. You know, I didn't really take too many notes on the fight. Again, this is kind of all by the seat of my pants. Mac Tyson just joined us on Twitter. What's up, Mac? So, yeah, like, Brendan Allen, he's really well-rounded. You know, he did get caught by Chris Curtis, but, I mean, Chris Curtis, he was on that run of doing that to everybody. He's got good hands. He's really good on the ground. And when you're in a division like middleweight, which is a bad division no matter which way you cut it. So you'll see, like, with long-reigning champions, the division, it is perceived as bad. There's some good fighters there. And now with Sean Strickland as the champ, there's some intriguing matchups. So Brendan Allen is in this bad division, right? He can go out there and shine against these people. And he does. We saw that against Paul Craig. Paul Craig's a better than average fighter that would be middle of the pack at middleweight. He needs to go back up to light heavyweight. I'm harping on the weight cut for a reason because it's just bad. It's just dehydrating himself and killing his body. But what I really liked from Brendan Allen in this fight was the ground and pound. Okay, so oftentimes we'll see a wrestler come out and he'll get top position. We saw this a couple weeks ago with Jailton Almeida. He got top position against Derek Lewis and thought it was too important to lose, and he didn't want to lose it. So he just stood there in full mount. Brendan Allen doesn't do any of that. Brendan Allen drops elbows, punches, he chases submissions. He's looking for a finish, and that's the type of fighter you want to see. Now, is he a Khabib? No, he's not. Does he have a good gas tank? He showed this weekend that, yeah, after 2 rounds of domination, he does. But it's different when someone's fighting back. And I'm not here to say, like, Paul Craig wasn't fighting back. But, like, active resistance and dominating are 2 different things. And Paul Craig was just being dominated. So I'd like to see what happens with Brendan Allen. You know, he was beating Chris Curtis in his last fight, so he should be on a monster win streak right now, and he'd be top 5 if he was. You know, he'd have all that. But I'd like to see him have a step up in competition. His ground and pound is great, and it's great for the division. Let me rephrase that, because like Jared Cannonier has some good ground and pound, but it's not great ground and pound. Dricus du Plessis, that's what he makes his living on, is his ground and pound because of his size advantage. So when it comes to Brendan Allen, I really want to see him step up in competition. So for my MMA News, I wrote an article, his 3 next opponents. I said Khamzat Chimaev, which is a long shot, Paulo Costa, and Robert Whittaker. So Chimaev is a long shot, but Chimaev's also struggled against every decent fighter he's fought. We got the Gilbert Burns fight. I don't want to say decent because Gilbert Mearshart's a decent fighter. He's average at best. But against Gilbert Burns and against Kamaru Usman, 2 smaller fighters where he had a size advantage, he struggled mightily. And you could have said before the Usman fight that Chimaev, he's cutting all this weight and that's why his cardio is bad. But at 185, he has bad cardio. Oh, I like Kevin Holland's a decent fighter too, but that was a short notice fight. So, yeah, I can give him credit for Kevin Holland. That's a good win. Anyways, what was that? Oh yeah, Chimaev. That's a long shot. UFC wants Chimaev to be champion very, very badly. I see them pushing him. And he might get the Robert Whittaker fight. He might get the Paulo Costa fight. Shoot, they might sign him up against Jarrett Cannonier. Ugh. Cannonier would beat him, I think. But anyways, I think that's a long shot. I don't think he fights down in the rankings unless the UFC's like, yo, we need to develop this guy. But I don't think they're in the developing business anymore, really. So then there's Paulo Costa, who, with all of his shenanigans, I don't know if we can trust Paulo Costa to make a fight date anymore. But for Brendan Allen, he might. Then again, he might not be motivated to fight Brendan Allen again. Or fight Brendan Allen the first time. He might not be motivated like, I don't want to fight this guy. I'm Paulo Costa, MTFK. So, Costa, he missed weight. After the Adesanya fight, he just kind of fell off the deep end with the Hawaiian excuse. And then, who did he pull out of? He pulled out of a whole bunch of fights, man. Vettori, the weight cut miss with Vettori. He pulled out of a Whittaker fight. The whole weight cut, and then that sounds like your problem. We're fighting at 205 against Vettori. Pulled out against Khamzat. And I can't blame him for the Khamzat pullout because that was a bad staph infection, but he's not a reliable fighter to book. So Brendan Allen he could fight Paulo Costa next, but that'd be a long shot. Robert Whittaker is my best choice. He's 1-2 in his last 3. Obviously, he lost to Duplessis, who's fighting for the title, and he lost to Izzy in a rematch. So that's 2 fair wins. I can give Whittaker credit for that. But he needs to fight down in the rankings, and I didn't see him today, but Brendan Allen should be top 10 by now. He was like 11 before last night. He fought down to fight Paul Craig, who was like 13 or 14. He should get a bump, and he will. So Whittaker needs to fight down. On a 6-fight win streak, Brendan Allen should fight up. Like, I was writing the matchmaker piece and thinking to myself, like, man, who could he fight below him? Because there should be options down there. He can't only fight up. And then I was like, wait a minute. He's won 6 fights straight. This guy needs to fight somebody strong, somebody good, somebody who's proven in the UFC. Derek Brunson will be a great fight for him right now, but he's not here anymore. He's fighting in PFL, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, I don't know. I like him fighting up and only up. That's the one that does it for me. I don't see anybody else optional for Brendan Allen. So yeah, big news on the weekend was Shakur Stevenson didn't throw any punches. Emmanuel Navarrete and Robson Conceição had a barn burner right before that, so it made it look even worse. But the actual big news is PFL has officially bought Bellator, which I absolutely hate. But I'm going to have to start covering PFL now. I'd been holding off. I wanted to expand coverage on, like, another promotion besides the UFC and boxing. And I was like, Bellator would be great, but they're being sold. It's been a while now. It's been rumored for forever that they're being sold. So I was like, let's hold off and see what they end up. And it's been 11 months, and I'm still not covering any new promotions. So this weekend, PFL has a main event or a pay-per-view card that I'll be watching. I'll make a video on after the fact, probably the next day. That's on Friday, so it'd be Saturday. Yeah, I can make that work. So yeah, they bought it. Good, I guess. They're still not there for the UFC. I'd like to see how Ryzen enters the mix. You know, Ryzen probably can with what's the president of the Ryzen president? I forget his name. Sakabahara, maybe. No, I forget. Whatever. Anyways, I can see him teaming back up with K1 because he did a lot of stuff with K1, if I'm not mistaken, in the past. But really, what he's been doing recently is working with Bellator in these cross-promotion. They've done like 2 or 3 cross-promotion events. So with PFL scooping up Bellator, that's a lot of good champions. Now, they've overcomplicated this with the Bellator League. They're going to have a Bellator League. Like, why are we keeping the unrecognized name brand? You got the PFL Champions League, which is like their good one. Then you got all the America, the Asian, the Latin America, the Africa, the Australia League that they're going to be launching. So it's like, oh my God, they're doing this. But, I mean, it has an option to be pretty cool if they can execute on it right and get the right fighters. So Alfredo, like, he put up, like, they need to scout prospects early. And that's something Bellator started actually to do. You got Amislav, you've got all of those guys. But they picked up, like, college wrestlers. So they got Pico really early. They got Jordan Oliver just recently fought. You know, they tried Pat Downey. Pat Downey's not going to work out. But they're going after these guys that aren't traditional mixed martial artists, but they're wrestlers, kind of like the old school UFC days. That's not going to be a viable thing, but you need to find ways to develop these fighters. And we're seeing PFL do that with Biagio Ali Walsh, which is the grandson of Muhammad Ali. He's an amateur fighter, and PFL has him on their card this weekend, along with my boy Kai Wu, who trains with Mark Zuckerberg. That's really cool. But they need to find these talents early, like 4, 5, and 0. Like Brave has a litany of talent. They need to get in good with Graham Hancock at Cage Warriors, which is where the UFC gets a lot of their European talent from. Mexico probably has a embarrassment of riches, and they're launching PFL Latin America, which probably will include Mexico and Brazil and all that south of the United States. Probably not. It might not be Mexico, but they should. They need to go after Mexico because UFC's going after them hard, and I'd understand why after seeing, you know, like Brandon Moreno, Alexa Grasso, and all these guys coming up, and they're great. So, yeah, that's good news. Probably do some more PFL coverage in the future. Yeah, so, yeah, like I said, we're going to keep it short, guys. This is going to be it for today. Follow me on Twitter, on YouTube, Blaine Henry TFL, and Fight Library on YouTube. I've got Fight Finders Episode 2 coming out later this week. I've got to do some voiceover work. Video's completely edited. So I just got to do voiceover work for it to narrate everything that's going on. That should be either done tomorrow or Thanksgiving, just depending on my schedule. And it'll be out and ready to go. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Later.